Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we sift through the noise, grab a bunch of sources, articles, reports, our own notes, and pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're diving into something that, well, feels a bit surprising. India's really fast emergence as a global player in the aluminium extrusion industry. For a long time, when you thought about complex metal manufacturing, India might not have been the first name that popped into your head. But that's changing fast. It's a pretty big shift in global manufacturing, and it's happening right.
Exactly. And that's really our mission today. We want to unpack why this is happening, what makes these Indian manufacturers stand out, and also look at the bigger picture, what it means for global industry, for supply chains, even for sustainability. And it matters to you, our listener, in some really direct ways. Say you're an architect. Suddenly, you might be able to specify these complex custom aluminum parts at a much lower cost. Opens up design possibilities, right?
Yeah, things that were maybe too expensive before.
Or if you're managing procurement, it's not just finding a new vendor. This could be a strategic move. They have integrated raw material access, which can, speed things up. It really does change the game a bit.
That's a great point. So let's dig into this transformation itself. You said over the last, 10, 20 years, India's aluminium extrusion sector went from just serving its own market to being a real global competitor. What lit the fire there?
It feels like a confluence of things, really, a perfect storm almost. You've got big leaps in technology, definitely. A really strong push now towards sustainable innovation. And honestly, just some seriously impressive manufacturing capabilities that they've scaled up incredibly quickly. If you zoom out, it's redefining India's whole industrial image. It's not just a manufacturing hub anymore. It's becoming a strategic global source for these high-end extruded aluminum products.
Okay, and when we say aluminium extrusion, maybe we should clarify that a bit. For anyone not deep in the metals world, what are we talking about and where do these things end up?
Good question. Yeah, essentially, aluminum extrusion is, well, imagine forcing hot aluminum billet, that's the raw block, through a specially shaped opening, a die, under huge pressure. Think of it like industrial strength Play-Doh or squeezing toothpaste. But you get these very precise metal profiles out the other end. And because of that process, it's incredibly versatile. You see the results everywhere. Complex frames in modern buildings, critical parts in cars, intricate bits in electrical systems, even big stuff like the frames for solar panels and renewable energy projects.
Oh, okay.
The key is that combination. They can achieve strength, very high precision, and of course being lightweight. That's aluminum's big advantage.
So with that range, why are Indian manufacturers specifically gaining this global recognition now? Especially if, like you said, the old perception might have been different.
Yeah, that's the really interesting part of the story. They're moving beyond just being seen as, the low-cost option. Now it's about proven quality, consistency, and really embedding advanced technology into what they do. And this reputation is getting them noticed, getting them specified in big international markets, the U.S., Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia. They're competing everywhere now. They're showing that you can have both high quality and competitive pricing. It's not always a trade-off.
Fascinating. So how did they bridge that gap from the, let's say, simpler beginnings to this level of capability? What did that evolution look like?
Well, the roots go back to the 80s and 90s, roughly. And back then, it was mostly about domestic demand, pretty basic stuff, structural profiles for construction, some things for the electrical sector, standard shapes. And the processes were often, more traditional, less automation maybe.
Right. And then what kicked things up a gear? What enabled that leap in capability?
Investment. Just a huge strategic wave of investment. They really poured money into building state-of-the-art plants. They brought in CNC-driven extrusion lines, that's computer numerical control, super precise, automated shaping, a massive jump from the older ways. They also invested in things like automated handling systems, reduces errors, speeds things up, plus developing sophisticated in-house die designs so they can make really custom shapes and advanced surface finishing, coatings, anodizing, that sort of thing. It's these big investments that let them stand shoulder to shoulder with the big guys in Europe, China, the Middle East. Shows real long-term thinking.
And you can see the results in the product range, can't you? It's not just angles and channels anymore. You mentioned highly customized stuff for specific sectors. Can you give some more examples?
Oh, absolutely. It's really diverse now. We're talking about things like The mounting structures for solar panels, they need to be strong, last for decades outdoors, or components for transport, like specialized extrusions for high-speed trains, or even things like battery enclosures for electric vehicles. Lightweighting is critical there.
Right, every gram counts in EVs.
Exactly. And then you have intricate profiles for medical equipment or high-performance heat sinks for electronics, where managing heat is key.
So it's not just making more things, it's the engineering complexity that's gone up.
Precisely. And it's this versatility coupled with their adaptability, their cost effectiveness, and now a real commitment to sustainability. That's making India a go-to place for global OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, the big brands making the final products. They're looking for partners who tick all those boxes.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Let's break down those key strengths.
Yeah.
What exactly is differentiating the Indian manufacturers? What's their competitive edge?
Right. Well, first off, you absolutely have to talk about cost competitiveness. It's still a major factor.
Yeah.
Their production costs tend to be lower think labor, energy, and that lets them offer really competitive pricing globally, often without cutting corners on quality.
Mm.
And importantly, India has its own strong aluminum mining and refining base, so they've got good access to the raw material, the billet, that cuts down on import reliance, shortens lead times. Huge plus in today's supply chains.
Okay, cost is one. What's next?
Second, and this is maybe the biggest shift, is the focus on high-quality standards. They've moved deliberately from being just cost leaders to being quality leaders. You see leading companies getting all the key certifications. ISO 9001 for quality management, IATF 16949, that's the big one for automotive suppliers.
Yeah, that's crucial for cars.
Absolutely. And CE marking for Europe, REACH for chemical safety. These aren't just nice-to-haves. They're essential for playing in high-stakes games like aerospace, defense, automotive. And they're backing it up with serious R&D, looking into new alloys, better surface finishes, lightweighting techniques, finding ways to make parts just as strong but lighter. Plus continuous quality checks, right from the raw aluminum casting through to the final inspection. It's rigorous. Quality's key. Got it. And the third point. Third, as we've touched on, is that diversified product range. It's impressive. Everything from your standard sections, T-profiles, angles, channels that everyone needs, all the way to highly complex, bespoke designs for specific uses. So concrete examples. Those EV battery enclosures we mentioned, designed for specific thermal needs. Intricate structural parts for aircraft, building framing systems designed for quick assembly, or even specialized heat sinks for powerful electronics. The variety and complexity they can handle now is, well, it's remarkable.
Okay, so quality, cost, and range are impressive. But what about the strategy behind it all? The business moves that are actually driving this global expansion?
Good question. There are definitely some deliberate strategies at play. One is a clear export-focused approach. Indian manufacturers are actively, even aggressively, building out their international supply chains. They're focused on reliable, timely delivery and meeting global standards consistently. And they're putting themselves out there, participating in major international trade shows, getting their brands seen, connecting directly with buyers overseas. It's proactive.
Not just waiting for orders to come in.
Exactly. Second is strategic partnerships. They're actively collaborating with big global OEMs in automotive, aerospace, construction, working together to develop high-performance custom solutions. You also see joint ventures happening, outsourcing deals. It allows us sharing expertise, transferring technology. It's mutually beneficial.
Smart. Learning from partners.
And third, you can't ignore the policy and infrastructure support back home. The Indian government's Make in India initiative, for instance, has definitely helped. It offers things like subsidies, tax breaks, simplified rules for manufacturers. Plus, there's been investment in things like special economic zones, SEZs areas, with more business-friendly regulations and big improvements in logistics, ports, roads. That helps cut down turnaround times, boosts competitiveness. It's a national push.
Makes sense. Now, it sounds like a success story, but surely it hasn't all been easy. No rise like this happens without hitting some bumps in the road. What challenges have they faced, and how are they adapting?
Oh, absolutely right. It hasn't been a perfectly smooth ride. One major ongoing challenge is just intense global competition and the resulting pricing pressure. You've got huge volume producers, especially in places like China and Vietnam, really pushing on price. So to stay competitive, Indian firms have had to get really lean and efficient. They're heavily into optimizing operations. Automation helps, adopting lean manufacturing principles to cut waste, being super smart about buying raw materials, all while making sure quality doesn't slip. It's a constant balancing act.
Working smarter, not just harder.
Pretty much. Another challenge is the constant need for innovation just to keep up with international standards, which are always evolving. It means they have to keep investing. Better extrusion tech, more precise die making, improving surface treatments to meet tougher specs from global customers. Like we said, those certifications, ISO, CE, REACH, they're not a one-time thing. You have to continuously meet the standard, prove compliance. It requires ongoing effort and investment.
Right, you can't rest on your laurels.
Not at all. And finally, a really big one now is tackling environmental and sustainability concerns. This is huge for global buyers. So, Indian firms are increasingly embracing green practices. Things like maximizing the recycling of aluminium scrap. Aluminium is highly recyclable, which is a big plus.
Yeah.
Also working to reduce emissions from their plants, shifting to cleaner energy sources where possible. Taking these steps seriously positions them not just as suppliers, but as responsible partners, meeting those ESG environmental, social, governance benchmarks that more and more clients globally are demanding.
What an incredible journey. It really is clear that India's aluminium extrusion sector has, well, truly arrived on the global stage. That blend of innovation, that focus on quality, and still maintaining competitive pricing. It's genuinely reshaping parts of the global supply map in a way few might have predicted maybe 10, 15 years ago.
It really is. And maybe this leaves a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. When you consider all these advantages India now brings to the table, the raw material access, the tech, the push for sustainability, how might this shift influence your decisions about where to source materials? Or how might it impact the broader quest across all industries for products that are lighter, stronger, last longer, and are made more responsibly? What new possibilities does this really open up for innovation, for sustainable growth globally, especially now as everyone's thinking harder about resilient supply chains? Something to consider.
Definitely something to think about. We hope this deep dive into India's rising aluminium extrusion industry gave you some valuable takeaways. Join us next time for another deep dive, getting into the information that matters to you.